Okay, this is part 2 of balancing your macronutrients for weight loss. So in the last video I explained, in part 1 I explained, the different percentages that I recommend. There is no perfect percentage, but that's what I like, that's what I've utilized and recommend. And so again, I think it's all about balancing your macronutrients. There are old school diets that talk about breaking up your foods, break up your fats and your proteins and your carbohydrates because your body's too stupid to digest it all, right? That's not true. When you understand physiology, which apparently those diets have no basis on physiology, when you understand physiology and digestion, you know that we change environments throughout our digestive system to digest different macronutrients in different places, and then most of that absorption happens in your small intestines. Again, your body's very intelligent. It knows how to deal with these things. We've been doing it since the dawn of time, or at least since the dawn of man and woman, right? So basically, in this video, I want to give you a couple of ideas. I believe that the best meal is when we combine macronutrients. Every meal should have some carbohydrate, some protein, and some, good fats. And so when I talk about carbohydrates, I'm not talking about in the form of sugar. And if you're on a lower carb diet, I don't recommend no carbs. But if you're on an extremely low carb diet, I don't recommend that either. But I do recommend lower carb diets. Again, the percentages I gave you in the last video were 35 to 30%. Somewhere in that range is a low carb diet. You can even go a little lower than that if that's what you choose to do. Now, I think every meal should contain each three of those macronutrients. And now when you look at this, protein is the first to satiate you. So satiation means a feeling of fullness. So it's the first thing to make you feel satisfied and full. Okay? Now, fat does not make you feel full right away. In fact, it takes a little while for it to make you feel full. But once fat gets to the small intestine, it actually makes you feel full for the longest period of time. So that's a good reason to have both proteins and fats in those meals. And then, we say, well, what do we need carbohydrates for? We can use the fats for energy. That's true, you can use the fats for energy, but your brain is a prima donna. Your brain wants glucose for energy. So you either have to convert it, take it from storage, or do something to give your brain that energy. And I like having that readily, easily usable source of energy from my good macronutrients or my good carbohydrates. So there's a number of reasons. I don't want the video to get too lengthy. Let me give you a couple of ideas of things that we can do. So here's what I do for my morning meal. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to do this or it's the best thing ever, but it balances the macronutrients, and that's my goal for you. Make sure each meal is balanced with your macronutrients. So my meal in the morning, a lot of people might not like this, but this is how I do it, okay? In my coffee, what I do, I use a little blender, and what I do is I put in about 12 cashews, I put in a scoop of collagen protein, 2 scoops of whey protein, in a little bit of hot water. I put a half teaspoon of cinnamon, and then I put 2 packets of either stevia or Truvia, which are both natural sweeteners. And so sometimes I'll add a little bit of honey. You can do that as well, but honey has calories and it is high glycemic sugar, so if I use it very sparingly. Now I put that in the blender, I blend that up in just a little bit of hot water, then I make my coffee, and I put a tablespoon of coconut oil. Now, I'll take my blended mixture, I'll put it in my coffee, and I've got this nice little cappuccino that's filled with protein. It's got a little bit of carbohydrate, and it's got my good fats. So it's got coconut oil, about 17 grams per tablespoon, so you get your good fats there. And that actually keeps you sustained over a period of time. I got about 30 grams of protein in there, not including the cashews that give you a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein as well. And then the cinnamon, which is good for your blood sugar. It's just a good nutrient to have, also gives it a nice little flavor. And so that's what I do for my breakfast, and I will tell you, I do that in the morning, and it satisfies me till about 11:30, 11:45-ish, when I generally eat my lunch. And so that's one thing that gives you, just an idea, okay? Again, there's lots of things we can do for breakfast. Of course, you can eat, whole foods and things like that as well. Again, I'm no chef. As I said in the last video, I'm no chef, I'm no cook, but I want to give you some ideas to balance your macronutrients. What's another thing we can do? Well, what I like to do is I like to grill up some chicken, and then what I'll do is I'll take that chicken, you can portion it out to get as much protein as you want. Usually a nice sized breast is about 40 grams of protein, which is what I try to target per meal, somewhere in that range between 30 and 40. And so I'll take that, chop it up, put it in a pan with some olive oil, Actually, what I will do prior to that is I will take either brown rice that I've cooked up or quinoa, and I will saute it in the olive oil with some vegetables. Now, you could even saute the vegetables first so they get nice and cooked, and then put the brown rice in because it's already cooked, or the quinoa, and kind of put that in there. And then last, I add my chicken just to heat it up. And so you've got that nice mixture. You've got your good carbohydrates and a little bit of protein with the quinoa. You've got your nice protein with your chicken. Again, people say, oh, meat's bad for you. Well, then get steroid-free, antibiotic-free, maybe free-range type chicken, and you're going to get a healthier version of that meat. I'm not anti-meat. I think that meats give you good nutrients, good protein, and so there's healthier ways to do it versus non-healthier ways. And again, so in that meal, I also got my olive oil in that meal, so that olive oil is giving you some really, really good fat. And so I like that as a meal. Now, again, I'm just giving you a couple of little ideas here. Another thing, let's say you're in a pinch, right? And you're like, man, I don't have a lot of food, or I didn't go shopping, but you want to balance your macronutrients. And I am not saying this is the best meal ever, but it still gets your macronutrients in. What you could do is toast up about 2, maybe 3 pieces of Ezekiel bread. And again, you kind of want to toast Ezekiel bread because it's got the dryness of a desert, when you eat that stuff without toasting it. But you can eat it, hey, if you like it plain, eat it plain. But I like to toast it up a little bit. And then you can take a piece of that Ezekiel bread, put some grass-fed cow butter on there, which Kerrygold has this grass-fed butter. The fatty acid spectrum in grass-fed, fats is so much better. So it's actually a healthy source of fat. Again, don't use too much of it. We can overdo anything, right? But again, if I butter 1 or 2 of those pieces of bread, and then on my third piece of bread, I'll take some nice organic peanut butter and I'll spread it on there. Some people are anti-peanut butter. I know peanuts in excess can be acidic. I know that other rationales talk about these peanut lectins. I don't particularly agree with those. I don't think the research is strong enough. But if you wanted to, you can use almond butter, and almond butter is alkalizing and it doesn't have those peanut lectins. So again, there's ways to do this. And you could put the peanut butter or the almond butter on the 2 slices of bread with the one with your grass-fed butter. Or you could do it 2 with the grass-fed butter, 1 with the peanut butter. Again, what you're getting is between the grain bread, it's Ezekiel, but it's really good for you. With that sprouted grain bread plus the peanut, you're getting a full or complete protein. So you're combining your protein to get a complete protein. It may not be the best in the world, but it's still a decent protein. A nice, full, complete combined protein with those 2 together. You're also getting your good fats from your grass-fed butter. And some carbohydrates from the Ezekiel bread, which again, it's a grain bread. It's got some good fiber in there. And so again, it's still a balanced meal. It doesn't happen to have any veggies in that meal, but again, that's something you can do in a pinch. There's lots of ideas out there. Again, I'm no cook, but think about balancing. Think about getting some protein, some good fats, a little bit of carbohydrate with every meal, and I think that you'll do really well with it. If you have any questions, let me know. Stay strong. I'll see you next time.